Namaste and welcome to another recording with Light TV and of course myself, Mandy Horton. And so today we're wanting to talk to you about doubt really, and how this is continually playing out with a lot of light workers on the planet. And there are a lot that have taken up the sort of challenge, I suppose, of their path, and what they recognize and know is that they're here to do. But there's a lot too that are floundering still in a lot of doubt. And I mean, I see it all the time, and I know that it's something that we've always put. This is why we have development classes. We're just going to start some online development so that we can reach further out and extend our teachings, which will be, is exciting for me. I'm always in there with that, always putting my hand up, going, yes, please. But what I really know is that for myself, there's really a lot of pressure at the moment, and pressure's not quite the word really. It's just that there's a gentle push. So we're sort of saying there's a nice little gentle push, and it's a nudge for a lot of the light workers to actually look at how can we start creating this path more so into our life. And I know that we've just had given you a recording on that our creations aren't actually here on the planet just yet. We haven't really created a future for ourselves at this present moment, and that was a talk about how the September wave that's coming in is really, I feel, just going to, and what I get shown is going to be pushing us through those big golden arches that we talked about. So and more of that creative that we've been creating our life to be is going to actually start excuse me, showing up for us on the planet and into your future and your future. So where we're going though is that there's still a lot of doubt going through the minds of a lot of light workers. I see it all the time, and I see that there's a huge amount of them that have done a lot of work with us and gone through a lot of workshops and healing processes, because it's all, I was just saying yesterday that it's not actually about learning. I don't believe that we need to really learn anything more here. Sure, there's going to be some excitement in knowing something again, but you already, all of it is all just remembering. So it's it's remembering that we've just going to keep remembering all the time the things that we already know, the gifts that we already have. We've already got them. They're just going to show up for us now. That's what's happening. It's just reminding ourselves that we have these and that we know how to use them. And so we're not so much, for me, it's not so much about the learning, it's about healing. So what we're here to do is definitely heal all the old that keeps us regurgitating and going through the same thing all the time. And you've heard me talk about that many, many times. So that's what I know we're here to do. And I know that through my doing of that, it's sort of changed, it has definitely changed my path. Things cleared out of the way for me to stop procrastinating and sabotaging and to just get on with what we're here to do. And that was what I was amping to do when I was a child. I just knew that's what I came here to do. And it was so frustrating to have to grow up and go through all this stuff that I knew it wasn't me. It wasn't who I really was. So we get to a point, and I know I got to a point where I had felt like I had done enough. I'd done enough, and yet my head and myself was still doubting myself. I was still allowing myself to be held back by this chatter in my head that was actually not true. It wasn't true. I was telling myself stories and doubting all the time that I had the ability or the knowledge or the capability. And I kept seeing it as a potential I had, which kept it further and further always in the future. It wasn't actually that I had the capability right now to do this. And yet somewhere, within me there was a contradiction in that, because I would be saying to myself, but if I know I can, I actually know I can. I know I've done everything. I've got it all sorted now, and I know that I can do this. But that two-way conversation we have, but what if? So we doubt continually until one day I decided I wasn't going to do this anymore. And that's what we're really wanting to talk to you just about today, is that there comes a point in time where you've done all the healing. You've done and gone over the same stuff probably a lot. and there comes a time where you know that you've learnt enough, that you've reminded yourself about enough of yourself, that you feel confident enough in some way, even if it's, this much confidence and that much doubt. There's that much confidence. So it's time to take that out and actually decide to stop doubting. And it really is as easy as that, honestly. When I decided, because when I decided this, to stop doubting myself and stop telling myself, stories that weren't true, kaka, as I call it, when I decided to stop, going through that, I had to sit in what sort of brought that about was because I sat in and I was actually looking over what I had done in my past, what I'd done, how much I'd cleared out, where I'd come from here to here. It was a big journey and it was a lot of work, and I had done all that. And I had experiences that I had learnt through healing work and personal one-on-ones with people and doing doing it. So when I sat in that, I actually saw in the truth of it that I was capable of continuing this without doubting it any longer. So there's times in there that there will be, to be appropriate somewhere in there maybe if you're still doubting, and you may feel that when you look into that doubt there is some emotional issue that's holding you in that. You can, be working more on those issues if that's what's really there. But just have a look and see whether it really is the truth, or whether it's just something that you're telling yourself, a story that you're telling yourself, a way of being able to stop the success or stop the, you coming out of that darkness and into the light. It's time for all the light workers now to take up this call. And like I say, I know there's a lot of you that are desiring to do this. You really want to get on and actually, be doing the healing work and doing all this counselling work and processing and helping people, assisting people. And I get it. I know that there's a lot of heart involved in all of this, but there's a lot of doubt still, like we're talking. There's a lot of doubt. And I know that when we we can sometimes just continually keep seeing something. And that was another thing that kept happening for me too, was I actually had a reoccurring little back thing. I kept putting my back out. I would actually curve my body around where my right side would come in and twist around over my left side. And I looked like some old crone. I couldn't stand straight, and it was really bizarre. But what happened was, when I actually looked into that, it was every time I was hurt in some way from what I considered hurt and pain from a male. So it may be a word said, it could be an action taken, and I would take it on, and that was me. So that continually happened a lot. It was always there. Sometimes I was laid up in the early years, with it I would be laid up for a week or so. And then it got to a point where I had worked on all of what I considered to have done, all the work on this. And then I was just going to unplug the vacuum cleaner from the wall, and this thing tweaked again, my back. And all of a sudden it was like, oh my gosh, this instant thing of, oh my gosh, now I bet I know where that came from, because I knew what created it, what thoughts I might have, or the pain that was associated to it. And there'd been a little incident. But what I looked at, when I looked into it, it was like, actually I've done this. I've actually done this work. And what I started quoting to myself from that moment on, and within seconds it changed the whole thing, was that this was not of my consciousness any longer. This is not of my consciousness. So when I started saying this to that issue, this is not of my consciousness, and I knew really deeply within myself, I knew I had finished with it. This back issue just dissolved. It just, within seconds, it just dissolved. And I thought, gosh, there you go. You know, we continually keep thinking we have these things to work on, and sometimes we've actually finished them. So that would be something else that we would just ask you to have a look at, is if there's something still reoccurring and you've done a lot of work on this, and it's still coming up for you and reoccurring in some way, and it may not be like that wasn't as big as what it had been in the past, but it still was there, then we're just going to ask you to have a look at that, see whether there really is something still there. I mean, I could have dug up some more, you know, I could have gone through another little bit of crying and oh poor me, victimhood, but really I had done it. I knew exactly what I was taking on, and I knew that I was playing it out as a victim. And when I strongly, assessed and looked at it, and then, affirmed for myself that this was not of my consciousness any longer, it just dissolved. So that's what we're asking you to do, is to just have a look at what may be still running for you that you really have finished with. And if you have, start affirming it. You know, this is not of my consciousness. There's many things from that point on that have happened to me throughout, little things that would have come up and thrown me back into something. And I just simply state now, not of my consciousness. I don't get flus, I've just had a chill that I'd got from working, but that's something, that when I looked at that, I could understand where it was coming from and why it was there. It was a clearing in this big shift that we've been doing. But up until then, I just don't get flus. It's not of my consciousness, and so it's part of something that when you start really affirming for yourself, and you know what is really you and what isn't, and there must be points in there now where you really know who you are. And it's just a matter of, clutching that, really taking hold of it and really owning it and letting go of everything that is not serving you any longer. It's not of your consciousness. When we raise our consciousness, those parts of us leave. We need to let them go. So sometimes it's just a matter of acknowledging that you are letting this go now. And it is not of your consciousness. It doesn't serve you any longer. So I decided one day, when looking through my doubts and my sabotage that I was using doubt for, I was creating procrastination. I was afraid of the big change that my life might take if I stepped really truly into this path and what I knew I was here to do, even though it was such a strong will in me, and it always had been. There was a little girl in me that was afraid. And so when I looked at that and I decided there was no more work to be done on it, and I decided to step out of doubt, every time an ounce of that would come in, one little peep of it, I would simply refuse to have it. And from that day on, my life changed. It really took on a new turn, and I was confident in what I was doing. I am confident in what I do because I know it. And so when you allow that space, you just deepen in that. There's a grace with it as well, and that grace will take you on a beautiful ride. So we just wanted to get that out there, and just to plant little seeds of acceptance within yourself for you to really allow yourself now. And like we're saying, there's going to be this sort of a step forward. Really, for me, I feel that's what it is. That's what I get shown, is a step forward in September. We're able then to really start mastering this mastery that we have, and bringing more of this creation into our lives and into our future, making a future here now in this new vibration. So, now's the time to clear out and to really consider where you're allowing yourself to be held back, held up, sabotage or procrastinate, and feel that will and desire in your heart to do what you know you've come here to do, what you know you're being called to do, and just allow that to happen. It's a beautiful ride, and you will do so very, very well. There's so many of you that are just, amazing, amazing healers and counselors and light workers. You're working. You are already doing that. But I know there's so much more out there for all of us, and I see in the theme around me that there's a lot of you that are really doubting still, and it takes courage, I get that, but you have the courage. You're here at this moment on this planet, so you are a courageous soul. You came here to do this, and this is, you are. So just have a look. Have a look, and all the best with that. I just again, if anybody's needing any assistance or requires assistance, we're here. So namaste everyone, and just remember to be the light in your world. Bye.